Good morning, everyone. My name is Deirdre Denman, and I'm the Marketing Coordinator for Wonderware, California. Thank you for attending our Learn in 30 webinar today focused on how to create an alarm workflow. After the webinar this morning, we will be doing a short Q&A. Please type in questions or concerns or comments into the Q&A box, the chat box, or email us at webinar@california.wonderware.com. Now, I'd like to introduce your presenter for today, Michael Tuffley. Michael is a Wonderware California product specialist in Northern California. And without further ado, let me turn it over to Michael. Good morning, Michael.
Thank you, Deirdre. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining Wonderware California's Learn in 30 webinar on how to create an alarm workflow. Again, my name is Michael Tuffley. I'm the product specialist for Wonderware California, and I am based out of our San Francisco office. So, in today's 30-minute webinar, I'll be introducing you all to Wonderware's workflow for modeling your organization's processes. I'll be demonstrating the steps involved in configuring an event that's triggered by a reactor-level alarm. Then I'll be developing a simple workflow to model the response process to that alarm. And then we'll create a form to capture all of the information that was relevant to that incident. After completing the development, I'll trigger the alarm, we'll execute the workflow, and then we'll demonstrate how the process will look to your end user once it's been initiated. First, though, I'd like to take this moment to introduce Wonderware California. So why go with Wonderware? As the leader in HMI SCADA software, Wonderware is used in 1/3 of all plants worldwide, with over 1.6 million licenses installed. Wonderware was the first HMI SCADA solution to run on Windows, and for the past 30 years has been the lowest risk, easiest to use, 100% forward compatible, and scalable HMI SCADA solution. And being backed by Schneider Electric, a $26 billion global specialist in efficiency technologies, means that we'll be around to support you for the next 30 years. With local and global support and over 3,500 system integrators worldwide, your implementation and administration of Wonderware software will be worry-free. Wonderware offers a best-in-class operations management platform designed to improve your plant's efficiency, reliability, and safety, thereby decreasing your risk and your overall costs. Wonderware California hasn't been just a software vendor since 1992, but we've also provided all of our customers with first-class support, training, consulting, and industry expertise. We offer training and workshops at a number of sites throughout California, and we have a YouTube channel that hosts a number of videos, including all of our past Learn in 30 webinars. We have 2 offices in California. I am based out of our office in San Francisco, and we have another office in Irvine. Both offices host a number of training and workshop events, so please check out our website for a calendar of all of our upcoming events. Here at Wonderware California, we offer first-in-class support that's located right here in Northern California. When you have an issue and call our support line, one of these knowledgeable support engineers will promptly answer you and help you out with your support issue. So, what is Wonderware Workflow? Simply put, it's a tool for modeling and automating your business processes so you can standardize your procedures and analyze their execution metrics. Workflow is a component of the Wonderware Skelta BPM suite of tools. Alongside business activity monitoring KPIs and an integrated form editor, Workflow rounds out a comprehensive business process management platform. With Wonderware Workflow, you have an intuitive and robust development environment to model all of your processes. You can define the criteria that controls the execution, and it integrates with your SCADA system to automate the workflow's initiation. Workflow gives you actionable insight into your processes. With real-time monitoring and notifications, you can see your standardized procedures being executed. This allows for continual improvement, cross-functional collaboration across your organization, and most importantly, it protects your process from collapse in the event that a key person involved in that process is no longer with your organization. So here's an example of a BPM scenario. An event occurs on the plant floor. This event initiates a maintenance workflow. The maintenance person is notified, they perform their set of tasks, and then they close the loop with their supervisor to determine the next steps. This is the process I'll be modeling today in Workflow so that you can automate the human element in your operations and management can make more informed decisions more quickly. Wonderware Workflow is all about continual improvement. With every iteration of your workflow execution, you gain actionable information for improving the process. With continued analysis of the operating metrics, you can make incremental changes to the process until you converge upon an optimal solution. An example might be if, say, you notice that a particular operator has forms continually rejected by their supervisor, or there's some other sort of timing bottleneck. Perhaps additional training would alleviate that bottleneck, and the process would finish more quickly and more efficiently. Your process modeling design begins with two main tools, the workflow process design tools and the form design tools. They are both comprehensive solutions for modeling your processes and forms, and they're fully integrated to create a complete solution. Your workflow can call forms for capturing information, and your forms can initiate workflows based upon that information. And both development environments are super easy to use. They're intuitive, they offer robust configuration abilities, and with step-by-step workflow visualizations, each step is assigned to a designated person and has the flexibility to be configured with all of the conditions for the completion of that step and then what the subsequent path forward will be. When it comes to execution, workflow seamlessly integrates with all of Wonderware HMI and SCADA systems. And with a number of Microsoft product and other third-party integrations, the ability to capture and share information is almost limitless. With the Work Tasks mobile app, you can receive real-time notifications, you can approve events from your phone, and you can complete forms on your tablet. And then this brings me to the demonstration portion of today's Learn in 30 webinar. I'm going to show you how to create and execute a workflow in response to a reactor-level alarm. I will show you how to configure your workflows to send notifications like these. So for example, these are screenshots of an iPhone receiving pop-up notifications and then being able to approve or reject a task right there in your phone. You'll also be able to design forms like these that you can fill out on your tablet, and you have the ability to communicate with your team without even having to compose and send a single message because your response is already automated once you complete the task. So I'd like to begin with the demo with a tutorial on how to configure the event in System Platform that will trigger the workflow to execute. So first we'll open up the Reactor object in System Platform. We'll define all of the expression that the conditions will need to be satisfied to trigger the event, and then we'll create a new workflow to model that response. So we'll go ahead and go into the Reactor object in the System Platform Orchestra IDE. And we'll go over to the Workflow tab, and I'll go ahead and click Add Event. And here we'll call this event Alarm Event. And then once this event's been created, we'll go ahead and add the example repository gateway that we'll associate it with. And this is basically just the interface between System Platform and the Skelta BPM server. And here, the event expression is where we'll put the criteria that when on true, or if you want to on false or data change, or just periodically cycling through to trigger a workflow, we'll enter the conditions here. So in this event, I want to create a reactor level alarm notification. So let's see, we'll go to reactor level alarm, in alarm, say okay. So in this, right now, if this condition were true, it would trigger the workflow that we would create down here. But for the purpose of this demo, I'm also going to add a manual condition that I'll be able to trigger myself just so that the alarm doesn't go off while we're in development. So now both of these conditions need to be true for this workflow to begin. So I'll go down here and click New Workflow, and we'll call this Level Alarm Workflow. Go ahead and save and continue. And you'll notice that now a window appears, and this is the development environment for creating your workflow. Now, it's a little bit, the resolution is a little bit smaller when you do it through the Orchestra IDE. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And then we'll do all of the development natively in the workflow development environment mobile browser. So I'm going to click Close. Press OK. We will save and close our object. And then we'll go ahead and deploy it. And while it's being deployed, we'll go over here and I will show you the development environment in Skelta BPM. So now we will begin with actually developing the workflow that's going to model your process and your procedures. So I'm going to kind of give you an introduction to all of the activities that you can include in your workflow. We'll go through and actually model a process that would be, model a real-world response to a reactor-level alarm, and then we'll go ahead and configure each and all of those activity nodes to monitor that, or to model that process. So we will go back into our development environment. I will click on the navigation menu, navigate down to workflows, and the first thing you'll notice is we will see the level alarm workflow that we just created within the Orchestra IDE. So I'll go ahead and unpublish this. So now we can go into the actual development of the workflow itself. So as you can see, here's the blank canvas. The most important thing in the development environment is the activity toolbox. And it's over here on the left-hand side. There's a drop-down menu, and all of the activities are organized by what type of activity they correspond to. So in this event, this is a human activity, so these all involve some sort of a human action. I'm going to start off by going into the engine activities. These are things like doing a SQL database query or a decision tree based on some sort of pre-formatted logic if you wanted to, which we'll go into a little bit later. I'm going to start off by just adding a log so that when this alarm goes off, a log will be started. So we'll go ahead. I'll right-click on Logger, click to Add Below Selected Activity. Now, I could also just go ahead and drag a log out and then link it manually. But for the sake of this demonstration, I think that it's a little bit more polished looking when you do it like this, and it automatically creates a link. So we'll go ahead. I'll right-click on Logger, open up the activity properties, and I'll go ahead and name this log. I can also include a description. It just says event log. And you'll notice that the name of the log node changed, and then now that there's a description down here, so that when you're modeling your processes, you can actually say this is an image, and now you have a visual model for what your processes look like, just to capture that information for your records. So I'll go ahead and call this an information log. Next, I'm going to add a decision tree. Oops. Click on Start. Next, I'm going to add a decision tree. And what this will do is I'm going to build an expression that will say, basically, we're going to select which supervisor that we want to contact in response to this alarm. So, if it was during the week, maybe you have a weekday supervisor. If it's on the weekend, you might have a weekend supervisor. So with the expression editor, I can actually configure that logic so it'll know who exactly to contact. So I'll go ahead and build an expression. And I'm going to, under the date, specify today. And it's simple enough, just drag and drop, click OK. So today equals, and then I'll go ahead and build an expression here. And we'll go ahead and say Sunday. So if today equals Sunday, or today equals Saturday, then it'll know to contact the weekend supervisor as opposed to the weekday supervisor. And all this is built right into the logic. So we'll select Saturday. And we'll click OK. And what's the output? So if either of those conditions are met, it's going to be notify weekend supervisor. Otherwise, I want just to notify the regular supervisor. Click OK. Now, let's see. Let's choose the output for, let's say it's the weekend. I know that my weekend supervisor only has access to email. So I'm going to create an email under the Communications tab, notification. So I'll call this email weekend supervisor. And then we will select, under to resource, we'll select the weekend supervisor user. So this is the user selection window. I have the choice of using either users within my system platform Galaxy or within the Skelta repository itself. So my weekend supervisor is actually a Skelta user. So I'm going to select by username. And I'm going to go ahead and enter weekend supervisor. Click update. So now he'll get a notification if it was the weekend. And there's a bunch of other parameters for configuring email notifications, but I'm not going to go into those due to the limitations on time. But now we're going to go ahead and select what will actually happen since today's Friday, and it will go ahead and contact the weekday supervisor. So the weekday supervisor is now going to have to make a decision. So I'm going to select the choice activity, and his decision is going to be to assign a responder to the incident. So if I go into delivery channels, I can select how he can respond. So either it will go to his Skelta inbox, or I can actually configure it to use the local email server to send out an email that he can either respond to the email itself, or he can log into his Skelta inbox and respond to it from there. And you'll get to see how all of this appears later when we actually run the demo. Next, I'm going to select the two outputs, and he has two choices. He can notify the operator, and if he notifies the operator, then yes, this task has been completed, or he can notify maintenance. And yes, again, if he selects either of those, the task has been completed. And it's always important to know that you can't go on to the next step of the process until you've completed each thing. So that's why it's important to configure all of your properties to correspond to the conditions you want for moving forward through your process. So again, this is the supervisor, the Skelta user that will be assigned this task. Go ahead and click update. And again, I can configure the notification email that they receive. In this sense, we'll just call this choice activity, so that when we go through the actual process, you can correlate which activity to which email we're getting. So go ahead and click update. I can specify a body of that email. You can create timeouts and escalation conditions, and all those do serve as, so like let's say this person doesn't actually act on this in time, then it'll actually go to, say, another person or get escalated up the chain until someone can make sure that the task has been properly delegated. So now we're going to go ahead and we will create an approval condition to notify the operator. The nice thing about an approval is they have to accept or reject. So what this does is determines whether or not the operator is going to be able to take on the task. So again, I'll go to delivery channels. I'll select mail work list. I could also select mobile work list if they had the app. But in this case, Kevin does not have the app. Kevin is our operator. And we'll go ahead and assign this to the operator, who in this, oops, click that too fast, in this case is actually one of our users in the Galaxy. So I'm going to select his Galaxy username, and this is Kevin. Click update. And again, I'll identify this as the approval activity so we can see in the message what point we're at. And then again, I can allow Kevin to reassign it. I can create timeout parameters, but for the sake of this, we'll just go ahead and leave it as is. For each of the links, we have to specify what the output is going to be. Like, how does it know which path to follow? So one of the things I actually failed to do here was select that this is under the condition that we notify the weekend supervisor. So when I click save, it'll follow this path if it's the weekend. It'll follow this path if it's the weekday. And when it gets to the choice, I want it to follow this path if the supervisor selects notify operator, it needs to go follow this path, notify operator. Go ahead and move that link over there. I also want to give, so that now the operator has two choices. He can approve or reject. In the event that he rejects, I want it to actually pass back to the supervisor so they can redelegate the task. So we'll go up to link, and I want it to go from notify operator back up to assign responder. So now we have this link, and this will be in the event that he rejects the delegation of the task. And I'll go ahead and, to make this pretty, reconfigure the way the link appears. So now that we've established all of this, the other path that we had designated was to assign the task to maintenance. Well, this task in maintenance is a common task, so rather than reinvent the wheel every time I want to assign the same task to maintenance, I actually created a subroutine in another workflow. So if we go back to the engine activities down to workflow, what this will do is actually call another workflow to complete. So, and again, this is maintenance is always doing this. So, for the purpose of ease, I'm just going to go ahead and call the maintenance workflow. So we'll designate this link. If we say, okay, we want to notify maintenance, then it'll follow this path, and it will call this workflow. We'll call this workflow start maintenance workflow. And it's in the same demo repository. And there's maintenance workflow. And if I need to pass any sort of variables through XML, I can do so. I'm not going to. Click Save. And then go ahead and publish this. So now it's ready to go. And here's maintenance workflow, the subroutine that we're actually going to call, and I'll show you what that looks like. So we'll go ahead and click View. And you'll notice here that here's the start. So it was assigned to maintenance. I'll get a pop-up notification on my tablet because I'm maintenance now. I'm on the plant floor with my tablet. I'll get a pop-up notification. I'll have the option to approve or reject the request for me to go check out the reactor that's an alarm. If I reject it, it'll get passed back to the supervisor, so it'll get a notification, and it'll actually restart the original workflow, so it'll go back and I'll have to make the choice again. Otherwise, if I approve it, then I'll go through and I'll actually be able to get a pop-up list that I'll have to complete each of the action items on that list, and then I'll have to go forward. I have a task that I have to call my supervisor to close it, and then a form will pop up, and I'll have to complete that form to capture all the events surrounding the information relevant to that event. So now that we're there, let me show you how to create the form that we're actually going to call to capture all the information pertaining to this event. So we will go back. We will navigate over to Forms. And you can, new form. I already have a form set up that we will design right now. So here are all the controls. You'll notice it's got a very robust set of controls that are used to add elements to your form. If you want to scan a QR code, if you're bringing in inventory to capture into your form, if you need to invoke a workflow from your form, all of these data and hyperlinks, everything that you can put into your form. And it's as easy as literally grabbing the element that you want, dragging it, and dropping it onto the form. You'll notice that when you hover over it, you have the option to move it around. You have the option to duplicate it, delete it, change what kind of form you want, but most importantly, being able to configure what it looks like. So this will be our image that I want displayed at the top of our form. And under the Appearance tab, you have all the ways that you can manipulate each of these elements to appear how you want them to look on the form. So I'm going to go ahead and click Apply. It looks like my image link isn't working correctly right now. Hold on. I'm going to go through, go back to our development form environment, and apply. Well, it looks like that link is broken for some reason. Anyways, we'll move forward. I'll add a drop-down menu just below that, and I'll call this reason for alarm. And you'll notice that now if I wanted to pass the reason through an XML variable to, say, a database or a report, something like that, I can do so through, this will be the node for it. Down here, I can add what I want the drop-down values to be. We'll call this bad pump. And then another option might be to have, say, operator error. If I wanted to establish a default value that automatically appeared, I could do so here. Under the appearance, again, I can manipulate how it appears. Validation, most importantly, is where I can determine whether or not it's mandatory. So if I select mandatory, that means that they can't submit the form unless it's been completed. So I'll go ahead and click Apply. I'll drag over date and time field so that they have to input that. That's mandatory. And then I want to make sure I know who filled this form out. So we'll go ahead, or we'll say this is who the operator on duty was. And I can establish a default value I want, and I can make this mandatory. So the operator on duty, and then I want to make sure I can capture a description of the incident in their own words. And with appearance, I'm going to make this a text field with multiple lines to make sure you can capture all the information. And then they'll submit it through an electronic signature form. So I'll go ahead and publish this. And we can go ahead and kick off our development. Or we can kick off the workflow. So I'll go into, this is our reactor demo. As you can see, it's an alarm. And over here, you'll notice that I have the trigger. So when I press this trigger, it'll execute the workflow. So now it's true. It kicks off the workflow, and let's see what that looks like. First, I'll log in as the supervisor, because that was the first step in our process. And one of the things you first notice, I have in my inbox a choice activity. So this corresponds to the very first choice. So the computer identified that it was a weekday and assigned it accordingly. So now I have the option of notifying each of my two actors for the event. I'll go ahead and click Notify Operator. And now I've satisfied that node. So I can go ahead and log out. I'll close out of this. Now my operator exists in the Galaxy users, so I have to re-log in. You'll notice now I also got an email delivered to my supervisor saying, yes, you have a choice that you need to do, and you'll notice that I have a response that I can actually reply back to, so I don't even need to log into the system. I could just put notify maintenance right here in this and respond back, and it would go ahead and do that for me. But I'm going to log in as my operator, and you'll notice that I have this activity in my inbox. Also, I've configured an inbox right there at the edge of my screen, because Kevin doesn't even have access to a computer, but he will notice that he'll get a notification on his phone or something, and he'll say, oh, I have to check my window, and in his inbox, he'll notice that he now has the ability to approve or reject this task that was delegated to him. I'm going to go ahead and pass this back to the supervisor. I'm going to go ahead and reject it. Close out, and then we'll log in as the supervisor again, because now that it's been passed back to the supervisor as we had configured it to, I should have that same notification again. And there it is. So I'll go ahead and open up, and this time I'll notify maintenance, which will call the maintenance subroutine that we had created in the maintenance workflow. So, oh, what is that? That is an alarm that just appeared on my tablet, because now I'm maintenance person. I have a pop-up notification. I can go ahead and open that up, and you'll see, oh, here's my approval request, whether or not I want to accept that. I also got, this is the supervisor actually got that email, but I'll also get an email assigned to me. I can go ahead and I can reject it, or I'll go ahead, in this case, I'll approve it. Yes. And now when I go back into my Skelta BPM console, I will log in as maintenance, and then I'll say, oh, here's that checklist that I had designated. And I will have to complete each one of these with an asterisk. I have to complete, make sure that that all of these elements are completed. And I check submit. This is the list pop-up that will be created. And then now we'll proceed to the next step, which was a task that was delegated, that I have to call the supervisor up from the phone and confirm with him in person. Now, I gave him the ability to reassign this task. So say if he was busy, he could go in and he said, hey, Kevin, can you close the loop for me? I could actually go ahead and reassign this to Kevin, but I'm actually going to go ahead and just accept this so we can go to the form part. So I'll go ahead and take ownership of this. And then just note that I called the supervisor, click submit. And then we will have in our inbox now being able to call the form. Oh, what's that? So now I have another pop-up in my tablet and in my inbox, so I can complete the form in either place. So you notice that it's the same form that we just created. And I can also see that exact same form on my tablet. And I can complete this form from my tablet and submit it and complete the workflow. So we went through and just showed you how to trigger an event. We went through and showed you what it would look like. At this time, the demo's over, and I just wanted to extend an exclusive offer to anyone that was on today's call, that if you have any business processes that you would like to see modeled for a demo or a trial purpose, we'd be happy to do a proof of concept with you. Please just send me an email, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible, and we can meet up, discuss your processes, and we'll go from there. There are a few upcoming Wonderware events. We would love you to have you join. We have an Innovation Summit Software Conference in San Antonio the first week of October. And then we also have, at the end of October, an event celebrating our 30th anniversary. It's our Next Generation Conference at the Wonderware headquarters in Lake Forest down in Southern California. Also, if you go to our training page on our website, you can see all of the upcoming workshops and training events. And again, we have a YouTube channel where you'll actually be able to see this video that's been recorded later on this afternoon and all of our previous Learn in 30 videos. And at this time, I'd like to thank you all for attending and host a Q&A.
Hi, Michael. We had a couple of questions coming in. If you do have any questions, feel free to write those questions in the chat box. The first question that came in stated, what are some of the other supported integrations?
Certainly. So Wonderware Skelta BPM 2017 comes with out-of-the-box integration with the Wonderware MES, and it basically creates a comprehensive platform to support, any of your manufacturing process monitoring and response needs, basically from start to finish. Also, one of the new things, as you may have seen in the drop-down menu of the activity toolbox, is SAP integration. So it now allows you to pass data between your ERP and your manufacturing systems in real time.
Okay. Another question that came in stated, is it possible to start a workflow manually?
Yes. So I know that we only kind of covered, how a process could be initiated, through automation, but there's a number of ways that you could start something manually. For example, if you wanted to complete a form, you could do that. One of the nice parts of the development process that involves kind of testing all of your iterative changes to your workflow, you can initiate workflow manually just by going into the development, and they have a publish and test link that allows you to execute the workflow manually. And there's also some scheduling stuff that you can configure so you can just schedule workflows to occur.
Okay. Well, if there aren't any other questions, thank you, Michael. And if anyone would like to review any portion of the webinar, a recording will be available on our website this afternoon at california.wonderware.com. Again, you can find more information about future webinars on our website. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.